Hello, I'm Gene Sarazen, and it's a privilege to be associated with the PGA Tour Partners Program. As you might know, a few years back, I was associated with another outstanding program, Shell's Wonderful World of Golf. As the host of the Shell shows for 9 straight years, we traveled to 58 countries, covering 92 matches between the world's greatest players. The following match between Henry Cotton and myself took place at historic St. Andrews and aired January 21st, 1962. When we teed off at the old course, the weather was of typical Scottish flavor, very windy and bitterly cold. What you won't see is Cotton and myself wearing heavy coats between each shot. The match took 2 days to film, as did most of the matches, and if you see trees in the background on some of the shots, don't be alarmed. Though there are no trees at St. Andrews, this was a tactic employed by our producer Fred Rayfield to hide the cameras from the viewing audience. With that, let's head to the old course. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did being part of it.
The old course at St. Andrews, Scotland, the land where golf began, the most famous golf course in the world. A match between the veteran Henry Cotton, 3-time winner of the British Open, a former captain of the Ryder Cup team, and one of the truly outstanding British golfers of all time. And Gene Sarazen, your regular host on Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, winner of the United States Open Championship in 1922 and 32, 3 times PGA champion, and winner as well of the British Open Championship and the Masters. I'm George Rogers, and this is Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, a series of international golf matches played on the world's most famous golf courses. This week, St. Andrews, Scotland. The old course at St. Andrews was built by the sea. It lies on a thin thumb of linksland, sandy soil washed up by the retreating ocean. Although men have played golf over this land for almost 1,000 years, they have never altered its contours. The old course remains today a superb test of golfing skill, and perhaps more significantly, of golfing intellect. The roughs of matted grass, native heather, and tough Scottish broom make every recovery shot a trial, and sometimes a very grim ordeal. Each of the holes at St. Andrews has a name, and so do the awesome bunkers. Cheaps, Hell, a fitting label, and Cottage, to mention just a few. Each holds the tale of some golfing disaster. The fairways, grass dunelands, tumble and roll like the sea, and it is rare that a golfer gets a chance to play his approach to the green from a level stance. Nor are the greens themselves a haven. Here, as nowhere else in the world, the double green is the rule, an immense green serving 2 holes, 1 in and 1 out. For these reasons, and for the enduring golf value of its holes, the old course, its layout little changed over the past 2 centuries, has challenged generation after generation of the world's ranking players, and still continues to do so. It is fitting that the first view a visitor gets of St. Andrews Town is across the 18th fairway of the old course. The ancient Fifeshire town itself has always lived for golf. Here in the cathedral yard are buried some of St. Andrews' most beloved golfers, including old Tom Morris and his son, young Tom, famed champion of the 19th century. It has become a tradition for modern golfers visiting St. Andrews to pay their respects at this quiet shrine. One of the town's leading golf shops carries on the Morris name. And in another famous shop, just a niblick away from the 18th green, Laurie Ochterlony continues to practice that vanishing art, the making of golf clubs by hand. Time is all but forgotten when these huge but deft hands go to work. old course belongs to the people of St. Andrews, a true public links. But generous funds from the Royal and Ancient Golf Club help to maintain it. For over 2 centuries, the Royal and Ancient has been the golf world's most important institution, the governing body for all golf except in the United States. The R&A's trophy room is a monument to the game's rich continuity. On display are the old-time gutta-percha balls, clubs fashioned by master craftsmen throughout the decades, and clubs which were personally used by the game's great masters. Along with them, the Victoria and Calcutta Cups and the other famous trophies. Traditionally, the highest honor the Royal and Ancient can bestow on a golfer is to elect him club captain. On Inauguration Day, the captain drives himself into office, and the ball he uses is cast in silver and joins this glittering cluster. The only American to be so honored was Francis Ouimet, who became captain in 1951. Some things have changed about St. Andrews. Today it is a fairly modern town. And from the nearby Royal Air Force Base, outside of Rutgers, 5 miles away, supersonic fighters patrol the northern skies. But golf is still the town's major concern. Rain or shine, the townspeople play it on the old course, and on the 3 newer courses which adjoin it, the New, the Jubilee, and the Eden. At St. Andrews, they start young, and the public putting greens are invariably crowded with youngsters. Yes, everyone plays golf in St. Andrews. I'm on the practice tee at St. Andrews, where Gene Sarazen and Henry Cotton are just about finishing their warm-ups. It's a bitterly cold day here with a threat of rain. The sun has been in and out, and we have about, I'd say, a 30 to 35 mile per hour wind. I'm going to do my best to shield this microphone from it. Both gentlemen have been hitting the ball quite well in practice, but I rather think that once they get out on the course itself, these weather conditions have got to be a tremendous problem to them. Now, Henry Cotton has been recognized for many, many years as the prototype of the British professional. You play a great deal here in the wind, and you must learn to stabilize your weight and to hit the ball very, very sharply with your hands, and he does this wonderfully well. Gene Sarazen, of course, has for many years been known as a very aggressive striker of the ball, and he manages to keep it low with no trouble at all. Henry, Gene, you fellows are both hitting that ball pretty well this morning. How does it seem to be back at the old course?
Well, I love coming to St. Andrews always. It's one of the great spots of the world, and this old course is really tough, and boy, it'll be some test today.
It will be in this wind for sure. Gene, as I recall, one of the unforgettable moments of your career happened right here.
That's right. It was in 1933 when I was defending the British Open title. I came down the last 4 or 5 holes and lost the championship by 1 stroke by taking an 8 on the 14th hole.
Well, no 7s or 8s are allowed today now, bear that in mind. And if you're all set, I think they're just about ready for us over on the first tee. Since Gene Sarazen, your regular host, is playing in today's match, it will be my pleasure to take you through the round. With the players is the referee, Captain Archibald Provan of the Fifeshire Golf Association. Cotton's won the toss, and he'll drive first. Cotton and Sarazen, the 2 old masters, indeed the logical choices for our match on the old course. The first hole at St. Andrews is a short par 4, 374 yards long. However, it is far from an easy opening hole. The drive must be kept away from the fence, marking out of bounds along the right. Out to the left, plenty of room. The approach demands poise and finesse. It must be dropped just over the small brook, the famous Swilken Burn, which cuts across the fairway before the green. Henry Cotton's honor. Our match today is 18 holes at match play. We'll be playing R&A rules, of course. Henry's aiming to the left of center. And he gets off well. Not long, but down the middle. Gene Sarazen, the inevitable knickers. And on this chilly morning, Gene's bundled up in plenty of Scottish cashmeres. Gene's aiming well toward that safe left side. A fine opening drive. He drew that one nicely into the wind. Cotton 225 yards down the middle. Sarazen 230 down the left. Sarazen's away. Playing a 5-iron. Playing it with typical Sarazen dispatch. It's coming in over the burn about 30 feet to the left of the flag, bouncing up, finishing some 25 feet from the cup. Cotton second. And he selected a 6-iron. The most important consideration on this approach, obviously, is to be sure and be over the Swilken burn. Sarazen gauged the distance perfectly. A nice, crisp shot. Dropping onto the right side of the green as we see it now from back of the pin. In today's biting wind, both players are using the British ball. The American and British balls weigh the same, but the British is 0.06 of an inch smaller in diameter. Because its weight is more concentrated, it really bores into the wind. Cotton in that familiar crouch that he's used for years, 27 feet away. He's going to be short, about 6 feet short. Henry apparently expected this green to be much faster. They're usually very slick at St. Andrews. Let's see how Gene reads the speed on this 25-footer that he has for his birdie. And Gene was fooled by this green, too. He's left himself an 8-footer for his par 4. A fine, decisive putt. Henry Cotton putting for his par now from 6.5 feet. Henry went to the other extreme on that one. Sarazen 4, Cotton 5. The second hole on the old course is a par 4 measuring 412 yards from the championship tees, which we're playing today. From the tee, hummocks of rough along the right side tend to obscure the distant fairway, as do the severe undulations of the fairway itself. With this wind blowing against the players, however, Chief's bunker and the other fairway bunkers should be too far out to come into play on the tee shot. The green, well bunkered and contoured, is the first of the famous double greens. The far flag marks the hole on the 16th, the near flag the hole on the 2nd. Sarazen's honor, wind across and against. Aiming down the left side. The wind's blowing that ball far to the right of the line Gene was playing for. But it's finishing in very good shape. Henry Cotton's 54 years old, a very scholarly gentleman with a remarkable resemblance to Woodrow Wilson. And that drives safely down the fairway. Sarazen now 230 yards on the right side of the fairway, Cotton 220 on the left. To show you how strong this wind is today, Cotton's taking a 3-wood. On an average day, he'd be playing no more than a 7 or 8 iron for a second on this hole. Downhill lie. He hit that one. Too well, maybe. It's going to be yards over the green. That ball was struck so squarely, the wind hardly held it up at all. After watching where Cotton's 3-wood finished, Gene has decided to play a 4-iron. A little quick. That ball's hooking sharply across the fairway before the green. Just short of trouble. Cotton over the green, 70 feet from the cup in 2. Sarazen lying 290 feet away, just short of the front bunker. Gene has a tough little wedge shot over the bunker to a green that breaks downhill away from him. This green appears to be a lot faster than the first. undoubtedly will be playing sort of a pitch and run, pitching that ball just over the top of the slope, letting it run in from there. Not quite what he wanted, about 15 feet past. These two great old-timers certainly carry their years well. Here's the Squire, as he's always been called, pushing 60 now, but still with the quick, brisk actions of a very young man, 25 feet away. A little more legs. Down in 5. Cotton has this 15-foot side hiller for his par 4. A slight, subtle break. And it just slides by on the high side. Two bogey 5s. Sarazen leads by a shot. The third at St. Andrews, a 400-yard par 4, continues the straight line march away from the town toward the tip of the narrow thumb of links land. Until they reach the green, both players handle it well. Cotton, 10 yards behind Sarazen on the tee shot, planted a 6-iron approach 20 feet from the pin. Sarazen hit his 8-iron second, 40 feet past the cup. And then their troubles began. Sarazen took 3 putts on the weaving green. When Cotton also needed 3 to get down, each had added another bogey 5 to his card. Sarazen 2 over par, Cotton 3 over par. 200 yards out on the 439-yard 4th, a bank of rough divides the fairway into 2 levels. The lower right side provides a shorter route, but there's the threat of pot bunkers and gorse, a spiny, yellow-flowering shrub. Wherever you drive, on your second shot, you must cope with a large mound which blocks the entrance to the green. Incidentally, Cottage Bunker, from which Bob Jones holed a 6-iron for an Eagle 2 in the 1930 British Amateur, should not come into play in today's weather. Sarazen up. And it looks as if Gene's decided to take the low road down the right. And that's a big tee shot. Down the right side. It ran a long way on that hard fairway. That one should please Gene. Henry Cotton has had trouble keeping his hands warm this chilly morning. It seems to have affected his driving more than anything else. He didn't get all of that ball either. Sarazen 240 yards out, Cotton 210 in the rough dividing the fairway. Cotton taking a 2-iron. He won't be able to reach the green over 200 yards away. A good lie, but it's slightly uphill. Henry may have trouble keeping this shot as low as he'd like to. He really punched that one. An excellent shot. Bouncing on the fairway and finishing just to the left of the large mound. Henry can still pull out his 4 if he can get down on a chip and a putt. He's 40 yards short of the green. Sarazen a little over 200 yards from the pin, playing into a wind that's dead against him here. He's got his 3-wood. It looks like a beauty, coming straight over the mound. No, it's kicking sharply to the right off the mound as we see it, and rolling onto the front edge. A better kick and Gene would have been up much closer. Cotton preparing to play his 3rd. He's got a 9-iron. Henry's been playing this old course for 35 years now, but I wonder if he ever started with 3 straight 5s before. A hard shot here, the pin set just beyond a ridge. Much too strong. Two beautiful woods, and Gene's still far from sure of his par 4, 60 feet away. He must get this ball just over the top of that ridge and let it trickle down from there. Did you see that ball take off? About 11 feet past. Cotton off the back edge. 35 feet away and downhill on a very fast green. Did he misread that putt or simply mishit it? Here's Gene. An 11-footer for this 4. It should break just a bit from right to left. He missed it on the low side. A 5 for Sarazen, his second 3-putt green in a row. Cotton has this 7-footer for his 5. Yes. And Henry seems relieved. After 4 holes, Sarazen 3 over par, Cotton 4 over par. 140 years before the first record of golf in St. Andrews, this venerable institution was founded. This is the University of St. Andrews, established in 1412, the first university in Scotland. For 550 years, the young men and women of Scotland have come here, hoping to satisfy the eternal curiosity of youth about the world in which he lives. It was this same curiosity that led a Scotsman of the last century to another historic first. The man, James Paraffin Young. His discovery, the process of extracting petroleum from Scottish cannel coal and shale found in the pits near St. Andrews. Today, a century later, the mountains of slag have grown to be a part of the landscape. But the basic techniques established here by James Young of Scotland are still the foundations of the worldwide industry in which Shell plays such an important role. Shell is also part of another Scotland, a modern Scotland. One of the world's largest bridges is being built not far from St. Andrews across the Firth of Forth, and Shell is providing all fuel and lubricants used in this massive task. When completed, this gigantic structure will help join the north of Scotland with the rest of England. The job becoming too big for this rail bridge, the famous Firth Bridge completed in 1890, and the ferry boats that take 15 minutes to complete the crossing. They are no match for the automobiles that queue up for the trip in ever-increasing numbers. But Scotland always remains a fascinating blend of the very new and the very old. As the work goes on, high above the Firth of Forth, a ceremony that dates back to the days of Charles I takes place in the village of South Queensferry, the crowning of the Queen of the Fair. The band plays with the spirit and skill of village bands the world over. The Lord Provost, on the left in his scarlet robes of office, leads the procession. And this lovely young lady begins her reign of 1 year, a year that will see the new bridge nearing completion. Shell is proud of the role it is playing in the building of the new Scotland, for this is the symbol of Shell's search for excellence, the search for new products, new ideas, new ways to serve you better. Back at the old course, Sarazen versus Cotton. Under ordinary conditions, holes 5 through 9, while testing, are not particularly fierce. In a rising wind, however, this stretch can be brutal, and it was this morning when a sharp nor'wester was whipping in off the Grampian Hills. Buffeted by the wind, the two veteran champions fought their way to the turn. Over the 5th, a par 5 measuring 567 yards, the 6th and 7th, two par 4s of moderate length. Then, as the famous clockwise loop of 4 holes begins, over the 8th, a one-shotter, and the 9th, a drive and pitch par 4. Weather of this order invariably exacts its toll, and it did. Sarazen went 3 over par, Cotton 2 over par, when they played these 5 holes at the exposed tip of the treeless peninsula, the harsh land where golf was born. The swirling wind, cold even for Scotland, cut their distance from the championship tees and blew them all over the course, yards off their intended lines of flight. It blew them into the rough on both sides of the fairway, and into the heather, that tough, wiry bush. In the heather, the ball frequently sank below the purple bloom. It was difficult enough to see it, let alone hack it up. Under the pressure of the weather, Cotton, for instance, forgot to put on his glasses before playing his approach to the 7th. He hit well behind the ball. And Sarazen, rugged as he is, found his cold hands were losing their touch. Sometimes they bailed themselves out with expert approach putts on the huge, unsheltered greens, holding their balance remarkably in the blustery wind. Their years of experience under all playing conditions serving them well. Nevertheless, they also missed a few short ones they might well have holed on a calmer day, even on these slippery greens. And so they struggled on. Sarazen doing very well to bogey only 3 of these 5 holes, Cotton to bogey only 2 of them. No let-up in the weather was in sight. In fact, the sky was growing ominously darker when the 2 players reached the turn, each in 42 strokes. A curious 9 in one respect. Sarazen and Cotton had 7 straight holes from the 2nd through the 8th. We're standing just off the 10th tee in the lee of some gorse here, trying to get a little protection from the weather. And with me is the city provost, Mr. Tom Fordyce. And sir, we had a little bit of wind around this front line.
Yes. The wind is coming from the northwest, and that's the hardest wind of all to battle with on the old coast.
As a long-time resident of St. Andrews, sir, what does the weather picture look like for the rest of the day?
Well, I'm afraid we're in for a perfect downpour.
Little Scottish dew, huh?
Yes, and a bit more than that. But as an old St. Andrews caddy has it, he says, I never go out in the course without getting wet thrice and dry thrice. But weather is a considerable factor in St. Andrews. It changes the old course every day, and it has decided many a championship.
Well, there are a couple of chaps coming up to number 10 right now who might very well get wet before the day is over. The 10th is a short par 4, 338 yards long. All even as they started the second 9, Sarazen and Cotton matched par handily. Both were on in 2 and down in 2, after fine tries for their birdie 3s. In fact, until the last 6 inches, Cotton's bid for his birdie seemed in all the way. Two 4s, match still all even, going to the 11th. The celebrated 11th measures 173 yards to a severely tilted green. Some days it plays as a full 2-wood, other days an easy 8-iron, all depending on the wind. Like many of St. Andrews' best holes, the 11th is made by one key bunker, the dreaded strath, a deep pit gouging into the heart of the green. Trying to avoid strath, many golfers end up in hill bunker. In different British Opens, Jones and Sarazen both took 3 to get out of hill. Henry Cotton in rain trousers is coming down pretty good now. He has a 4-iron into the wind. To keep the shot low, the ball played a little back in the center of the stance in very firm hands. That should have it. Boring right through the wind, straight to the left side of the green. About 40 feet from the pin. The Eden River behind the green. Sarazen. He's going for the pin. He hooked it, trying to keep it low. That ball's heading right for hill bunker. No, it's just finishing short of it. Cotton on 40 feet to the left of the pin, Sarazen 25 yards away in the rough before hill bunker. And Sarazen's taking a lot of time for Sarazen with his ticklish wedge shot. He almost holed it. What a beautiful golf shot. If I may hazard a personal observation, I'd say that along with his four-wood, the club Gene plays best with the pitching wedge and the sand wedge. A grade 3. Henry Cotton facing a very skiddy 40-foot side hiller. He's allowing for lots of break, but Henry should know this green well. Sliding right down for the cup. I thought he had it. A really magnificent putt. Cotton has this 2-footer for his 3. That Strath bunker behind him, by the way. In the middle. Cotton and Sarazen each 6 over par. At this point of the match, the threatening storm suddenly struck. At the referee's suggestion and by mutual agreement, the players waited 40 minutes until the storm blew over before resuming play on the 12th, a short par 4 to a touchy 3-level green. Henry Cotton, a master stylist with marvelous hand action. Splitting the fairway. Our old friend the Squire. He's right down the middle, too. Cotton 265 yards out, Sarazen 255. Gene's second, a pitch and run with his 9-iron up the front dip. He sculled it over the green. Cotton chipping with a 6-iron. A delicate run-up. It may run over that narrow top level. Yes, just inches too long. Cotton just off the back edge, Sarazen on the back apron. Gene walking to his ball meditatively. He must get down in 2 or he'll fall behind the match for the first time. Gene's run up with his 9. Should be... no. Sliding back down the slope. Cotton line 2, gauging the effect the abrupt rise will have in his putt. Henry's beginning to putt a lot better. He figured it very, very well. And he's got his par 4. Gene 30 feet away, and he's not thinking about his par. He'll settle for 2 putts and a 5 from this position. Gene's had a lovely approach putt. He always gave him a fine hand. A 5 for Sarazen. 3 routes on the 13th, a great par 4, 427 yards long. You can take the direct line to the right of Coffin bunkers. With a following wind like today's, you can gamble on carrying them. Or you can drive to the left of the Coffins onto the 6th fairway. There's no rough separating the adjacent outgoing and incoming fairways, another singular feature dictated by the extreme narrowness of the original links. On and beyond the bank that leads to the upper fairway, rough mixed with heather. Henry Cotton up. The holes are heading back to town. Wind's behind the players. Henry has a 3-wood. Squarely hit, flying well over the coffins. Bounding up the face of the bank and into heather, I think. Very bad break. Henry purposely played that 3-wood so he'd be short of the bank. Sarazen shot. It's beginning to shower again, but a good portion of the gallery is stuck with the match all the way, and they certainly won't be leaving now. A good hit. Down the right. Landing on the fairway and finishing just at the foot of the high bank. Cotton 265 yards out in heather. Sarazen 255 yards in the light rough. Gene has an excellent lie, but a semi-blind shot. He's about 170 yards away, but he can get home with his 7-iron with his following wind. Looks very good. Coming down on the front part of the green and running about 50 feet by on the left, a beautifully executed golf shot. That's the flag on the 5th. Cotton's second from a miserable lie in the heather. He'll hack it out with a 9-iron as best he can. Well out of there. But settling right back in another patch. After their second, Sarazen well on, Cotton 30 yards short in heather. A somewhat better lie, not that any lie in heather is a good one. That stuff's as tough as wire and the ball simply slides off the club face. Henry caught it nicely with his 9-iron, but that ball's really taking off across this firm, fast green, yards past the pin. Gene playing 3, 48 feet away, a flat but very racy green. Incidentally, this is St. Andrew's largest green, well over an acre. It could be in. Man, that missed the hole by less than an inch. Gene, by the way, has his putters fixed so the back edge of the grip, the side away from the hole, is flat and not rounded. He finds that if his hands feel square to the hole, the blade will usually be square too. And that's a fine par 4 for the Squire. Cotton putting for his par from 32 feet. He must hold this one to stay in front. Henry was rocky on the greens at the start of the round, but he's stroking the ball much better now. Looks a little short. No, it's ghosting right up to the lip of the cup. So close it might still fall in. Henry's apparently decided it won't. He nudges it in for his 5, and the match again is all even. With 5 holes to play, match all even. Finished only 15 yards from the green. Sarazen, however, pulled out his par 5 with a perfectly judged pitch and run with his 9-iron. Cotton's chance for a birdie vanished when he could not get close enough with his 3rd, a touchy run-up with his putter, over a ridge breaking toward him like a wave. Two par 5s. On the 15th, 413 yards, Sarazen and Cotton split the fairway with their drives, and then hit the green with their approaches. Cotton with a 6-iron, Sarazen with a 7. On the green, they proceeded to get down in 2 putts each, and had the hole in par 4s. Still all even with 3 holes to play. So on to the 16th, 382 yards, a par 4. With this following wind, a well-hit drive should carry the main fairway hazard, a cluster called the Principal's Nose, named after what principal no one remembers. Along the right, marking out of bounds, the British golfer's inseparable companion, the railroad line. An elusive green to hit and hold. Weak bunker to be avoided. A dip at the front of the green and a dip at the back. Sarazen teeing up. Gene caught that one on the heel. He's pulled it way to the left. It's not far out there. That's winding up in the rough. A definite opening for Henry Cotton. The tension in this dramatic match has been mounting hole by hole. And Henry's belted a big one, sailing far over the Principal's nose. Henry Cotton has just unleashed his longest drive of the day. Cotton 280 yards down the center, Sarazen 190 yards in the light rough at the left. Gene with an uphill lie about 200 yards from the pin, going with his forward. He's carried that ball a long way and it could run up there. It does. It just climbed the upslope to our right, a remarkable clutch shot. Cotton pitching with his 7 from a depression behind a small ridge. He's got to get that ball up quickly. That could be too much club. Yes, that's over the green. And now the situation has changed. Henry's third now, a crucial shot, no question about it. Chipping with a 9-iron over a shallow dip. The pin 65 feet away. And it's going to be very, very short. Suddenly the shoe is on the other foot. Gene seems to realize it. He has a 40-footer. And he's put it dead. Another marvelous approach putt by Gene Sarazen. The old Bulldog is front back and he's pulled out his par 4. Cotton lying 3, 17 long feet from the cup. He must hold this putt or he'll fall a shot behind at a very critical juncture of this match. Cotton as methodical as ever. This 3.5-footer now for his 5. And it's in. The 17th at St. Andrews, the famous road hole. A dogleg par 5, 453 yards long. Off the tee, the ideal line is over the corner of the Octomoni drying sheds, but it takes a long carry. On the dangerous approach to the green, many golfers deliberately play short, thus avoiding the perils of the two-level green, road bunker, and the macadam road itself, from which the hole gets its name. The road plays as part of the course, but not as a hazard. Sarazen looking a bit tired. Perfect. What a competitor that Gene Sarazen is. Cotton behind by 1 shot, with time running out. And that one's letter perfect too. Over the corner. And far down the fairway. Quite a sizable gallery is collected to watch the finish of this exciting duel. A duel in the sun at the moment, thank goodness. Cotton 275 yards down the middle, Sarazen 240 on the left side of the fairway. Sarazen quite typically has decided not to play safe. He's going for the green with a 3-wood. It's hooking in and diving over the inside edge of road bunker and onto the back of the long, narrow green. A fairly good shot, but a fortunate bounce. Cotton 180 yards out, playing a 5-iron. There's a beautiful swing. It's coming in just to the right of the pin. And what a mean kick that ball took. Cotton just off the left edge, 45 feet away. That shot deserved a much better fate. Both men lie to, Sarazen away with the RNA clubhouse behind him in the distance. His touch on these long ones has been extraordinary on this second 9. A 60-footer here. The speed is right. And that 60-footer almost fell. What a hand the gallery's giving Gene for that superb putt. These Scottish galleries are very expressive. This tap in for his birdie 4. Cotton's going to use his putter from off the edge, and the burden is now squarely on his shoulders. To stay in this match, Henry must get down in 2, and it isn't going to be easy. Off that bevel contour, the ball will break almost like the letter S. Much too light with it. About 11 feet short. The putter was the right club, though. No other way to play that shot to a lean green like this one. And Cotton must hold this 11-footer for his birdie to stay within 1 shot of Sarazen and keep his chances alive. He seems to be concentrating perfectly. The gallery's hushed. A very dramatic moment on this historic green. And he's done it. With 1 hole to go, Gene Sarazen is still clinging to his 1-shot lead. The 18th is a short but troublesome par 4. About 235 yards out, a macadam road crosses the broad fairway. Along the right, out of bounds, and for that reason, it is wisest to drive out to the left. From that angle, however, the player is presented with a very difficult shot to the pin, usually positioned behind a deep hollow, the Valley of Sin. It is positioned there today. Gene Sarazen. The gallery has lined the length of this entire hole. Down the center, and finishing, hold it, on the macadam road crossing the fairway in a puddle on the road. And this could turn everything around. Cotton, aiming out to the left, still very much in this match. A long one that should bounce over the road, and does. Cotton 260 yards down the left, Sarazen 240 yards on the road. Down the fairway, the gallery is gathering around Sarazen. Gene's ball finished in a puddle left by rain at the front edge of the road. Referee Provan is informing Gene that 2 years ago the rule was changed. The road no longer plays as a hazard. He's in casual water, Provan explains, and is entitled to lift and drop without a penalty. And that's a sizable break for Gene. He has an 8-iron. The pin's about 135 yards away. He's hit a very fine shot. Comfortably over the Valley of Sin and rolling down about 25 feet to the right of the cup as we see it. Cotton with his pitching wedge 110 yards out. Henry must pick up a shot on this hole to even the match and send it into extra holes. It's coming up right at the pin over the Valley of Sin, and it couldn't have missed hitting that pin by more than a foot. Cotton 15 feet away, Sarazen 24 feet. Both on in 2, and a big putt for Gene. You can't overstress the part Gene Sarazen's phenomenal approach putting has played in this match. Down in 4, a 79 for the round, 37, even par on the second nine. And now everything rides on this putt. To tie Sarazen, Cotton must hold the slippery 15-footer, somewhat downhill. It could be in, and it slid by just an inch offline. And by a single shot, Gene Sarazen has won this dramatic match on the old course between two of the greatest players in the history of golf.
In commemoration of this golf match on the old course at St. Andrews, I, as Provost of the city, have to congratulate you, Mr. Sarazen, on your victory and to present to you a medal as a memento.
Thank you.
And to thank you, Mr. Cotton, for a very fine fight you have put up and given us a very fine match to watch. We always enjoy having golfers of high repute, such as you at St. Andrews, and we hope you will both come back soon to visit the city and also to play once again over our famous courses.
We're here on the 17th fairway at St. Andrews. Now this is the famous road hole, which is the scene of many a golfing catastrophe. And with me are a couple of gentlemen who literally span many decades of championship golf, Mr. Gene Sarazen and Mr. Henry Cotton. Gentlemen, I imagine down through the years you've seen styles change quite a bit.
Yes, well, but Gene still wears +4s, you know. Please, Henry. Knickers. They're +4s to us.
I was talking more, Henry, about golf style, of course. For instance, when you were breaking into championships back in the 20s, I don't think it would ever occur to anybody to hit a wedge pitch shot into the type of green that you have here at St. Andrews, would it?
No, George. First of all, there weren't any wedges, and secondly, the greens were always too firm, so we had to play a pitch and run shot.
In other words, deliberately hit it short of the green and try to run it on up to the pin.
That's right.
Using what, maybe a 5, 6 iron?
A 6 iron.
Would you care to demonstrate that for me,
Yes,
please?
with pleasure.
It takes years to develop that sense of distance. Well, Henry, that's a very fine and useful shot, particularly around St. Andrews. I wonder if you'd show us that in slow motion.
George, you'll notice that when Henry plays this shot, he uses a great deal of wrist action.
Gene, when would you say roughly this style change occurred?
Well, I would say around 1932, the sand iron made its appearance as sandwich.
In other words, then you could hit the ball high in the air and try to drop it right dead on the stick.
Oh, yes, you play the shot right for the pin.
Would you try to show us how?
I sure will.
Thank you, Gene. Notice the precise contact Gene makes with the ball. Gene, that's a big change, but an equally effective shot. Would you hit that for us in slow motion, please? You know, it's a funny thing. We've been talking about wedges here for a few minutes, but when you stop and think about it, you fellas didn't find a bunker all day long here at St. Andrews.
Well, maybe we're too old to reach it.
Well, what did you think? We didn't exactly threaten par, but under the conditions, I thought we played pretty well. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I look forward to being with you for another match in this fine series being exclusively presented by the PGA Tour Partners Program. For the PGA Tour Partners Program, I am Gene Sarazen.